Welcome to the Black to Business Podcast, an educational podcast providing Black entrepreneurs with the tools and resources to start and grow their businesses. I'm your host, Monique T. Marshall. As entrepreneurs, we really have to learn how to be selfish. And when I say selfish, I'm speaking about how we treat ourselves. Are you still on team no sleep? Well, this week we're diving into why that's a no-no. I've invited Dr. Arabia Mollette in for this week's Chief Chat to discuss self-care and mental health and entrepreneurship. Dr. Mollette is the ultimate lifestyle physician, healing through entertainment as she uses her experiences to develop creative ways to educate on hardcore true facts about the body, mind, and soul. At the age of 5, Arabia envisioned herself becoming a doctor. At 17, she became a teen mom to a baby boy whose life was tragically taken away at 4 months old. Her younger sister was shot and killed while riding in a friend's car just a few years later, and both tragedies caused her to persevere. She didn't have any money for medical school, so she studied at Hunter College, and she was later awarded a scholarship to study medicine at the Latin American School of Medicine in Havana, Cuba. Nearly a decade later, after graduating from Hunter College, completing medical school in Cuba, and learning to speak Spanish fluently, she completed her residency as an emergency medicine resident physician at Newark Beth Israel Medical Center. Dr. Mollette also hosts her own podcast called The Visit, where she uses her story to empower the community, a true testimony. So during this episode, we discuss how to treat your body like a temple, how to listen to your body and get proper rest, and how the people around you are affecting you. This is a great episode, so let's get into it. So thank you, Dr. Mollette, so much for joining me on the show today. I'm so excited to have you, and I can't wait to talk about this topic.
Hi. Oh, okay. Hey, how you doing? Thank you. You're welcome. Sorry, I'm just like, kind of like all over the place today, but I'm focused. I'm here with you.
Yes, we are here. So, Dr. Mollette, before we get started, if you could just tell the people my listeners who don't yet know you, a little bit about your story, how you got where you are today, and what is it that you do within your business?
Well, I'm gonna eat first and foremost. I'm an emergency medicine doctor or ER doctor, and 2, I have my own podcast. It's called The Visit with Dr. Arabia Mollette. I'm also a public speaker. Well, the new word is like what they tell me, like the influencer. Some new word. Every time I turn around, there's like a new term for everything. I'm like, okay, I'm a speaker, motivational speaker. And I'm a writer as well. And just pretty much just Dr. Mollette.
That is what we like. So I'm excited about today's topic because I was, researching you and what you've done. And today, the fact that we're going to be talking about, my audience is entrepreneurs, so mental health, entrepreneurship. So before we get started, I know you have a very interesting story. Why did you kind of get into the field that you are in today?
There was several things. Many things that happened in my life. I grew up very poor, grew up in a domestic, in a household where domestic violence took place. Drug addiction was heavy in the household, and I was a street kid, and I grew up in the streets, myself and my siblings pretty much. And to the point where that I was basically pretty much had to raise myself in a sense. And to make a long story short, what inspired me to become a physician or ER doctor. Well, number one, since the age of 5, I've always wanted to be a doctor, but I wasn't too sure exactly what kind of doctor or what specialty that I was going to get into. And also, I've always saw myself in media as well since the age of 5 as well. But I wasn't too sure exactly how that would all come into play until the tragic deaths of my, 3 things. I've actually, at the age of 11, I witnessed my mom attempted to commit suicide. She survived, but she attempted to commit suicide, and I was 11 years old. And second was that my sister, one of my youngest sister, Kenesha Mollette, was shot to death after her 19th birthday. And then a couple of years later, my son I'm sorry, I said it wrong. My son was actually killed first. My son died, was murdered first, and I was a teen mother. And my son was murdered at the hands of his father. And then a couple of years or several years later, my one of my youngest siblings was shot to death after her 19th birthday. And so, that would inspired me to even more so to become a ER doctor, but I had to get my life together and get out of the streets and clean
Right.
myself up in order for me to pursue this dream. And I did.
Right. I mean, and that's, thank you so much for sharing that, part of your story with us. And you didn't have to, but thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And of course, I want to talk about when it comes to mental health, because you're a doctor, and then you also run a podcast. So when it comes to mental health and entrepreneurship, if you could just talk a little bit about how this has an effect on the mind and how it also has an effect in the Black community.
Well, I think to start on, I'm going to start off with the latter part of it, and then get into the entrepreneurship. As far as the Black community is concerned, we definitely have a crisis. For many, many years, I even remember growing up in my house, and especially in my household, with mental illness, excuse me, or mental health disorders was very noticeable in my even within my family as well. But as far as the elders and the older folks, it was like, oh, that person is just special. Oh, you need to just give it a God. Or, you just need to pray on it. You just need to stop acting crazy. You just all over the place. And to be honest with you, the suicide rates are really high amongst Black children as of now, Black boys and girls, as starting at the age of 5 years old. And, when we were growing up, it was uncommon to hear that, but it did happen. A lot of us were in denial about it. To be honest with you, growing up the way I did, I just only told a very small snippet of the story because of timing.
Right.
I mean, it's a lot more deeper to my story. I remember at the age of 5, even before that, if I'm not mistaken, and from I would say maybe 4, even up to my young adult years, have had suicidal ideations and was very depressed. And when you go through a lot of changes, you go through a lot of tragedies, and living poor, and you don't even have to be poor to suffer from depression, because money has nothing to do with mental illness. But I definitely remember just suffering internally, inside, just in silence from depression growing up. And it was always this oh, you just need to leave it to God. And that was that. And, you need to get baptized or something. And it was no, that's not the answer. I want to get help, but I didn't know, I wasn't too sure how to get help until my siblings, especially one of my sisters, come from a very large family, was nah, all of us need help. Every single one of us need help. And we have to go to family therapy, whatever it is, all of us need help. And we started going to family therapy. And then, each of us did our own individual therapy. We also went through bereavement counseling as well. So it definitely helped a lot. And this is years and years and years going back, sometimes dropping out of the sessions, then going back to it again. And then, things like that. So it definitely helped. Even with that being said, as far as mental health, even though my significant other, Dwayne, and I, we've been together for quite a long time, but even beforehand, we went to premarital counseling because there was a lot of anger issues that both of us had that we didn't realize that we were taking out on each other. It wasn't anything like domestic violence or anything, but you could tell there was some underlying issues that I needed to work out and he needed to work out. And so that was a part of the process. And I think that, Black people, we have to stop feeling ashamed about those who are have mental illness or just suffer from depression. We have to stop. A lot of us have to stop shaming each other for taking certain medications to help us, not only just with depression, but with schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. We have to stop shaming people overall in our society and our communities at large that are suffering from these chronic illnesses, and learn to embrace them. Just the same way how you would look at hypertension or high blood pressure or diabetes, and people take their medication. We're not shaming them, but when it comes down to mental illness, a lot of us do shame, or we're shaming those who are taking medication to help them through their illness as well. It's the same, it's no different. And that spills into everything that we do in our life, whether it's in school. I've actually known people who were brilliant, young brothers and sisters. They were, really brilliant in school, and they excel really well. But then, come to find out they're schizophrenic or they're bipolar, and they, you notice the deterioration and the changes. And the families, did not, for the most part, actually were in denial or tend to ignore it. And it's a shame because that person could have got help a long time ago. And I understand the stigmatization surrounding, as far as American Medical Society and the traumas that the American Medical Society had caused towards Black people overall historically. But we have to get to that point where we also have to recognize that a lot of us are suffering from mental issues. And so when it comes down to entrepreneurship, it doesn't matter if you own a business or not. Anybody, or all of us are one. I always say this, so it's kind of sound a little corny, but I always say we're all one degree or one paycheck, one degree away from losing our mind. And
yes, it's true.
And we need to honor that. We need to recognize that, and we need to stop. We need to really get into that, and it's not all the time that you have to go to the psych ward to get admitted to recognize that, unless you are absolutely thinking of killing yourself or you're thinking of killing others. But when we start to recognize these things early on, there's nothing wrong that we encourage one another to seek help.
Definitely. And I think that's so true. It's like, I do hear the people that, I listen to. I think it's this great thing about nowadays we hear about like self-care. So I think we're kind of moving in that direction, but it's the thought of, making sure that we're taking care of ourselves. We really have to, in order for us to be able to do this work. So all of those things you said are point on, and we can't no longer think that it's bad because when you're going through these situations, to seek help.
And exactly. And also too, we have to stop also using, I don't want to say stop using race, because I know it has been used against us as well when it comes down to mental health issues. But we also have to stop looking at it as that, well, it's only them over there that go through that. Black people, we don't do that. Yes, right. We do. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. For example, I just did a podcast recently with Tamika. Shout out to Tamika Mallory and my son, the New York General. They were both guests on my show recently, a couple of weeks ago, about reducing gun violence in the community. Reducing gun violence nationally. And I told them that I read an article written by this young man. He said the reason why, it was basically it was like why mass school shootings does not happen or do not happen in the hood. And they gave all these different reasons. Because usually in the hood is usually targeted towards that person, and this and that and the other, and blah, blah, blah. And, it's just like a number of different reasons why mass shootings, school shootings do not happen in the hood. So I said, okay, maybe that is true. But look what happened in the Bronx at Bronx Lebanon Hospital, where the young Black man who was a doctor came and did a mass shooting in the hospital. And that's in the middle of the hood. And I have friends that are doctors that were there. These are brothers and sisters these are Black doctors that were there when the day that this young man came in and shot so many people. And he was targeting people, but he was shooting all over the place. Like whoever he got. And this is a Black man. You understand? So this is what I'm saying. Like, we have to stop looking at outside and pointing fingers, so to speak, and look at it in terms of, and look within our community and realize that there are people who are on a brink of insanity. And how do we address that? I don't have the answers, but I just know that when you recognize that this is when the village come together and really be like, okay, this guy or this person, this young lady, man is on the brink of insanity. Should I call the police and have them be admitted to the hospital, to the psych ward, so they could get help, so they're not causing other pain and lives were lost. So I just think that is really, really important. Again, and I know we're talking about entrepreneurship, but there's been, if I'm not mistaken, and allegedly I forgot his name. He was such a nice person. He was the founder of Golden Crust, and the main one is in the Bronx. The largest one is in the Bronx, and I've met him plenty of times, back uptown. Very nice
Yeah.
gentleman, but allegedly, he's committed suicide. This is allegedly. I'm not saying this is what it is, but allegedly, from what the streets are talking, and then versus what I've read in media, that he committed suicide, and he's an
Wow.
entrepreneur. So, again, white people are not the only ones that going through this. We are also in pain as well, and we understand that society ignores us. We understand that we've been stigmatized, and there's a lot of stereotypes against Black people overall. But
Right.
we also, at the same time, we also need to stop denying that this is a real issue within our community, because little kids are dying and they're committing suicide, hanging themselves. And not too long ago, a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old Black little girl and boy committed suicide. And that's real.
And it is real. And I think, one of the things I definitely have to add to this is, self-care, and also like we're talking about mental health. And even like you just mentioned with the kids, even with entrepreneurship, I think it's a thing where, social media do you feel that social media plays a role into it? And how do you practice self-care?
In terms of like if social media plays a role in why the suicide rates are up, I don't think so.
You don't think?
So. I don't think so. I think this is a problem. I think what it is, it expose and open up our eyes to what's really happening around us. But this is something that's going on. Listen, when my mom attempted to commit suicide, I was 11 years old. That was 1991. You understand what I'm
Right.
saying? This is way before Facebook, Instagram. I mean, before I left to live, I lived in Cuba for many, many years. And part of it was because of, I was a recipient of a full scholarship to study medicine in Cuba. And when I left to live in Cuba for all those years, I left when My Planet was still in existence. Like, I didn't know anything about Facebook. I didn't know anything about, I did not know anything about Facebook. I didn't know anything about Instagram. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't even know about iPhones because it didn't exist when I left to live in Cuba for all those years. Shout out to my cubano allá, por allá y por aquí.
Yes.
And so,
wait, did you say My Planet?
yeah, I'm serious. And I was in college with My Planet. This is, like I said, I graduated from high school 1998. So My Planet, the only way you were able to get My Planet, you had to be in college. You didn't have, like, it's not like how it is now where anybody could get a Facebook account, anybody could get an Instagram account or a Snapchat. I don't even know how to use Snapchat, but I'm just saying, My Planet, you had to be in college in order for you to get a My Planet account, because it was started for college students. But just because, we have social media, I personally do not think that social media influences people to commit suicide. I think it exposes us to what the problem is, because everybody's putting everything on social media. But again, I'm going back to my mom. My mother was a teenager when she had me. My mother was very young. She was like 16 years old. So in 1991, I was 11 years old, my mom attempted to commit suicide, and I found her unconscious. I found the letter that she said she was done with her life, and she did not, she couldn't take it anymore. And if she don't do something, if it's better for her to die than for her to kill her own kids. And that's 1991. So what is that telling us? That it's always been in existence. It's just that now we have certain medium, we have different levels of media now that is exposing this problem more so. To be honest with you, first when I came back from Cuba, at first I was kind of like against the whole social media because I didn't understand. But then my sister snuck behind my back and created a Facebook account because she was getting tired of people calling her cell phone and looking for me. And she was like, I'm just going to have people connect with you on Facebook. And while, you're still living in Cuba and stuff like that, and people want to, always want to know what you're doing and things. And to be honest with you, you'd be surprised how many people that people even now, no, back like when I was like Facebook came out again, that was another account that and the only way you'd be able to, what my sister told me, that same thing like Black Planet, you had to be in college. I didn't know that. But even now, even while I was living in Cuba and was trying to connect with people, and we barely had any internet connection in Cuba at that time, but people was writing to me in my inbox. I didn't even know that was called an inbox. This is how slow I was. People were writing to me and was like, "Hey, listen, I'm going through so much right now. You know, I'm proud of you. I'm glad you living out your dream, but I'm going through this X, Y, and Z, and I don't know what to do." You know, and I would tell them, like, listen, I'm not a psychiatrist. I am a medical student, but these are the things that you should do to get yourself help. And to be honest with you, I was not even coming from just being a medical student. I was coming from experience and understanding that that's exactly what, some of the things I could identify what some folks were going through, and knowing that, okay, get help. And these are people who had way more money than me, who had businesses already, who was well established in their career, but they were drowning in their own sorrow. They were drowning in their own depression. They were drowning, just overall in life. And now is even done more. So people are reaching out to me more. And I definitely make referrals. I always try to hook them up with the next therapist or, psychiatrist more so. And especially within our community, I definitely try to link them up with Black psychiatrists from a cultural perspective. And so that people could, because some people are not culturally competent. They're not culturally sensitive. And so I personally do believe that you will want to go to somebody who look like you, who can understand your culture and have, a level of understanding instead of their biases. And so as far as Black people's concerned, I definitely always try to link them up with very good Black psychiatrists or psychotherapists. And so that way that they can feel comfortable in knowing that, okay, they're coming from that particular culture and they can understand, but that's where I stand with that. Sorry for the rant.
No, it's good. And I think that's an important point to make, connecting people with people that they feel like they can relate to. And of course, it's, increasing and improving our community. So I am with that, of course. And one of the things that you mentioned is, like we've talked about making sure that we're seeking help. And of course, like we have to talk about how do we deal with, the balance of the day-to-day life and making sure that we're okay. And, this team, no sleep and relationships and dealing with your business.
I hate that hashtag
team no sleep.
I can't stand that. I do not like that. I'm going to be very honest with you. I do not believe in team and no sleep. First of all, because physiologically, you need sleep. All right. You need your body to relax. You need your body to have a chance to be able to rejuvenate everything. Right. You understand? All the energies that you absorb throughout the day, the stress and everything, you need to sleep. And if you don't sleep, you will find yourself aggravated. You'll find yourself angry. You'll find yourself snapping at people. And then after a while, you find yourself becoming depressed. All right. So you need sleep. And team no sleep doesn't mean that for me personally, when I hear people like, yeah, I don't sleep, I'm grinding throughout the whole day. Yeah, I grind too, but best to believe Dr. Mollette is going to sleep. Okay. And I'm going to wake up in the morning like I normally do and continue my daily routine. I have to get sleep. First, I take care of people. I'm taking care of people in the emergency department. So if my mind is not right, there's no way in the hell I could be able to take care of anybody else. You understand? If my body's not right, there's no way I could be a vessel to help someone else. So that team no sleep, people need to trash that. And if people don't agree, that's on them. But you need a chance to be able to fall back and be able to sit in silence not just sit in silence, but to rest. Rest is a treatment. Rest is the medicine to your soul. Rest is the medicine to your mind. And if you believe in team no sleep and you grinding for 30 hours or 30 hours a day, 18 hours a day and you're only sleeping 4, then you're not doing any justice to yourself. I'm sorry. That's really crazy. The only time that I did that is when I was in residency and I had to do 37-hour calls for trauma. And I'm dealing with all types of gunshot wound victims, people in the car accidents, and I'm on call for 37 hours. Thank God I don't have to do that anymore because I graduated residency years ago and I paid my dues. But even when I was in residency, I couldn't stand it. I knew I was getting aggravated. And a lot of doctors, young physicians that are in training within residency, which is after you graduate from medical school, you go into a training. It's like you go into training in the specialty that you want to go in, so to speak. Mine is emergency medicine. So it can run from 3 to 10 years of your life. And so you're working grueling hours. And I was working over 100 hours a week. I did not get any
Wow.
sleep and I was depressed. My Dwayne can tell you, if he was here, he'll tell you how depressed I was, looking crazy. I was absolutely depressed because I was on that grind trying to be the best doctor I could be so I could graduate from residency. Never again. It was the worst thing possible. And you're abusing yourself in your body and your mind and your spirit. So throw that out, Tino. Sleep. Yes, team, get sleep. You could grind, but get some sleep. Get some damn sleep. So you don't come to the emergency room looking crazy. Talk about, oh, I feel depressed. I'm feeling like my chest hurt. And I'm like, well, when was the last time you slept? 2 days ago? I see why. I understand why now. See the dark circles under your eyes. I see why you feeling a little shaky. I see why you lead into drinking. I see why that you increase your intake of whatever illicit drug that you're using right now. I get it. I get it.
Yeah. Oh, that was definitely, I think not related, but I felt that one. So all of those things you touched on, like no sleep, the taking it and the caffeine and the Red Bulls, the coffee, all of that stuff that we try to consume just to keep us awake and alert it's just crazy.
Right. And you're not really taking care. Like, don't get me wrong, I drink my coffee when I'm at work, but I was a crazy caffeine person, even at a very young age. And especially when I was in med school, and especially when I was in my residency program, like I was like going crazy over coffee because I was definitely sleep deprived because I'm studying, I'm going to school, I'm doing these 24 to 37 hour shifts. When I was going to ever have time to sleep. So I refused, even to this day, and I could still get a lot done. And I see I get a lot done, but within my own time. And not only that, I know when to say no. I don't have to do everything. You understand? And that's the problem. I think people who are on this entrepreneurship road, they think they have to do everything within a certain time. Take one day at a time. If you can't do it, you can't do it. You know, you're not a superwoman. You're not a superman. Take your time. You understand? Things are not going to happen overnight. You may fail and you get back up. You try it again. But at the same time, you learn from it and give yourself a chance to rethink things and schedule your time to take care of yourself in the midst of whether it be exercise or, you know, definitely with exercise and just modifying the way you eat, so to speak. You know, whatever it is that's causing you to have these chronic stress, because that anxiety definitely goes up. And, you know, I just think that people think they have to they have to be on team too much. And it's not that deep. You will get things done, but you got to take your time and you got to learn how to say no. No, I can't do that today. No, I'm not going to do it. So you could get yourself a chance to heal and move on and really focus on what's important and what's in front of you. I think the best person this year that a lot of people can learn from, oh my God, now her name went out my head, but I'm going to call her name went out my head, but she played as Shuri in Black Panther. She played, girl, if you're listening to this, please forgive me. I don't know why my head, you know, your name went out my head. That's a shame. But she played as the character Shuri in Black Panther as T'Challa's sister. And she mentioned how she, you know, really had to trust on God and really had to take rest and really had to fall back from taking all kinds of roles and, you know, just, you know, different roles for acting and just really holding on to really resting and just really being in tune for her, it may not be for everybody, for her to be into her spiritual life. You understand? And that's discipline. She still got what she wanted. She still got what she wanted. She looked well rested. You understand? And I'm pretty sure doing that movie and you have to be on a set for 15 to 16 hours a day, I'm pretty sure it was draining, it was tiring, but she came in well rested.
She did. And that's who is Latita Wright.
Yes.
That's her name. Yes, I got that. And that's so true. It's like all of the things that you're saying. I too personally find that the more I've been able to say no, I get things done, things that aren't in alignment with what I'm doing. And I go to sleep earlier for some reason and I'm getting all of these things done because like you mentioned, I found that I was agitated. I wasn't getting as much done if I'm tired. So for you, what does your day look like? And what does saying no even look like to opportunities or things that so you can make sure you're taking care of yourself?
So for my day is that I actually cut down on working a lot in the emergency department. Part of it too was that I used to be full time. Now I'm an independent contractor, which is called locum. So I pick and choose my schedule the way how I fit. I don't
Got it.
work weekends. I don't work nights. I don't work holidays. And when I was full time, and then starting off with creating this podcast, I was very stressed out. I was very stressed out because I felt like I wasn't giving enough time to my other passion. And at the end of the day, God forbid something happened to me, best to believe the hospital can certainly replace me. You understand? They can always find
Right.
another doctor to fill that space. And I had to really sit down and be honest with myself. Why are you trying to kill yourself to do X, Y, and Z where you could be doing something else that can make you happy? And I went down from full time, then I went down to part time, and then I started talking to a number of friends of mine who are Black ER doctors. Very, very few of us. And believe it or not, Black physicians only represent 1% of about 2%, excuse me, 2% of all the physicians in the United States. So that's how small of a group we
Wow.
are, believe it or not. And I was talking to some friends of mine who also are ER doctors. They were independent. They are independent contractors, and I was just asking them, like, yo, how do you manage to do that? And they explained to me what the process is like. They pay their own benefits, but they're much happier than what they were when they were before, when they were working full time and not having time for their family, not having time to do other things. And I decided, okay, I'm gonna go right back into it, and that way it gave me a chance to actually exercise more. It gave me a chance to spend more time to myself. Even though I love my man, don't get me wrong, and we live together. I love him to death, and he loves me. But he knows I like to have my me time. He knows that I don't have a
Right.
problem of spending time to myself by going to the park. Like my thing is going to the park and sitting down and just being in peace, and things like that. Those are the little things that I like. So my day to day now is that, I work 2 days, once in a while, 3 days out of the week, depends, but 2 days out of the week I work. I usually try to work like a Monday or two. No, actually, no, I don't like working Mondays. Like a Tuesday and a Thursday. I really don't. I can't stand it. I think it's because I like to hang out over the weekends. And then when I'm like, oh, shoot, Mondays, hey, I got to wake
Right.
up. But I usually try to work 2 days out of the week, a Tuesday and a Thursday for the most part. But that can change. And I go to some events like my publicist, Tansy. She's always like, hey, there's an event coming up. I already put your name on the list. Or do you want to go? She always asks me, do you want to go? And sometimes I tell her no. And it could be the bomb event that a lot of people want to get tickets to. They try to get tickets to it. They got to pay for it. And I don't have to pay for it because my name is on the list, but I will say no. And to be honest with you, I have no problem with that because I'm tired and I want to rest and I want to get my mind right. Even with my podcast, I usually do my podcast on Fridays. Because I just feel like Friday is that day, and it's happy because it's the end of the week, and I made it throughout the week, and now I get a chance to really, really let my hair down and just voila, like just have fun at the podcast. So I try to do things like that, and then of course, with family time, we definitely have family time. Even with my own family, it is humongous. My family on both sides of my family, my mother and my dad's side, when they have events, sometimes I tell them I'm not coming. I'm serious. I'm like, I'm not coming. I
I
don't feel
love
like it. Like, and my family like, why you're not coming? I said no because I've worked so much. I worked hard throughout the week. I just kind of want to take it down. I don't do that all the time, but I just kind of want to take it down, rejuvenate, and get back into it. So my family understood, and they understood, and they respect that because they see that okay, when Dr. Mollette, or well, they don't call me Dr. Mollette. Actually, they kind of do. It's kind of corny. I hate when they do it, but when they see me, when they see that I can be, if I'm not rested, I'm not a good person to be around. I'm being very honest. I can be very snappy and just say something because, sometimes I don't have no
that.
filter. And so it's just best for me to give me that space to be like, no, you know what? Thank you. I love you, but I'm not going to be able to make it. You don't have to give them a reason. Just like, I'm not going to be able to make it, but I'll definitely, come to the next one. And that's what I'll do. Just respectfully, like, hey, I'm not going to be able to make it this time, but I'll definitely be at the next one. And people will understand. And that's a part of self-care. Um, that's to me, that's just a part of self-care. You know what I'm saying? Like your health is your wealth. And self-care is important to me. And my self-care will be get my nails done, get my hair done, um, watching maybe Love and Hip Hop. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Just like things like that, catching up, binge watching certain programs, Black Age.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? And that makes me happy. Besides preparing for my own podcast.
I love it. And I think the thing I can definitely hear is it's like ownership of our lives. And, because you don't, like you said, yourself. We know ourselves better than anyone else. So when we're going to these things, we really don't want to be we're making ourselves miserable. And you're saying, nope, I'm going to spare myself. So I love it. And I think people appreciate the transparency and the honesty.
Yeah, I swear I was just talking to, we were texting each other. I don't know, we were talking and texting each other. But Kay Fox, for example, we were just texting each other the other day. And it was just like, in terms of, taking care of ourselves, making sure our skin looks great, just little things that makes us happy. And recently I was in Philly unexpectedly for my birthday week. I swear, my friends make fun of me to this day. You might laugh, you might think it's corny, but I actually put on Facebook like, oh, for my birthday. My birthday was March 14th. Oh, for my birthday. Thank you. Getting old, girl, these bones. And so I was like, oh, for my birthday, I just want to, thank God and just reflect and meditate. And next thing you know, my friends were like, okay, you're right. And I was that serious. I was so serious about it. I was like, I just want to take it down. Right. I don't want to do any partying. Girl, next thing you know, I got a phone call. My peoples between New York and Philly was like, so what's up? You coming down to Philly? I'm like, oh, I'll come down there just for a few hours. It was 1, 2, 3, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 5 days. And I just came back on Sunday. So yeah, it was a lot. I mean, I had such a great time. I went to the R&B Philly radio station, but they hosted an event called Be Expo. I went to that. Like, I just had a great time, and just me and just a lot of different people and things like that. And, going to one of my celebrity photographer party. I didn't expect for that party to be like that. And the Philadelphia Eagles were there, like the NFL players. And I am not a Philadelphia Eagle fan. I am a Giants fan to life. So Ronald Darby, yeah, you ask why we're still Giants fans, because I'm a New Yorker. But he's number 41 on the Philadelphia Eagles. But he was cool about it. We joked about it. But it was good. It was just good to get out and have a great time. I mean, it was great. And I needed that. And I guess that God saw that, you know what? She said she's going to meditate and pray, but this is what we're going to do. This is what I'm going to do for her. She's going to enjoy herself. She worked hard. She did not burn herself out. This is her time to hang out and have a great time. And I did. I really, really did. The Be Expo was great. You should definitely try to check that out next year.
Yeah, now I'm like, I have to write that. And Philly, I feel like low-key Philly is that place I've heard. So I haven't really hung out in
Well, Philly is Philly is a great place. It's a great city. And I used to hang out in Philly back in the day. Me being, I'm a New Yorker. New Yorkers, we go everywhere. You know what I'm saying? You just know we New Yorkers. You know what I'm saying? But it was good. I mean, Philly is a great city to hang out at. Shout out to Quincy Harris, who's Q on the Fox. He has his TV show on Fox. Like, he's a great friend, and he hosted. Yeah, he's a great friend of mine, and he hosted us. I mean, even though I've been to Philly so many times, and K Fox is dope. Like, we just had a really great time down there, and it was the concert, and just talking with Dougie Fresh and all these different people. Roxanne Shante was there. Albie Shore, Christopher Martin from Kid and Play. I mean, it was just an overall dope event. Right. It was good. But the thing was, nobody wasn't being snobbish. Everybody was just having a good time. And that's what I'm saying. That's a part of self-care. You can go out and have a great time. Just do it in moderation so you're not killing yourself. You understand what I'm saying? Or you don't feel like I don't have to party all the time. You understand? I used to do that. I used to party hard back in the day, especially in college. What? I used to party hard. But I was looking crazy because I was tired. I was going to class late. I was oversleeping. Like I wasn't really taking care of myself. So now, I appreciate those experiences, and it taught me a great lesson. But I just learned to say no. Learn to say no. and not feel the need I have to solve everybody's problems either. That was my biggest problem too. I used to think that I used to be the go-to person, and I had to stop that because it's like it was depleting my energy. It was definitely depleting.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So even going to Philly, I was not thinking about my podcast. I was not thinking about no family. I was not thinking about no work, none of that. I was thinking about Dr. Mollette having a great time, letting her hair down and just chilling and hanging out and just living life,
Yes.
laughing and just being me. And then when I came back, it was like, okay, I'm good, y'all. I came back. Now I can think about the podcast, the upcoming. Now I can think about work. Now I could sign my charts. Now I could do this X, Y, and Z because I was, I rejuvenated. And that's all dealing with mental health. That's all dealing with mental health. These are nothing new. It's all dealing with mental health, believe it or not.
And I like that perspective because I think the thing is, you show that, because in entrepreneurship, it's also like, oh my God, you got to have your head down all the time and be consumed with what you're doing. And you'll get to enjoy life a little later after you've gotten and accomplished this. And even before you talked about, taking it one day at a time. So I feel like I'm glad that you spoke about, I wasn't thinking about my podcast. I wasn't thinking about work when I went out. I wanted to enjoy and rejuvenate. That was the goal.
Right.
And it's important.
It is.
But,
It is. And if you don't, what's the whole point of you? What are you killing yourself for? It's going to get done. You know what I'm saying? It's going to get done. All your dreams and your heart desires as an entrepreneurship. I mean, as an entrepreneur, and even if you already in it or you just starting, is going to happen. But you have to listen to your body. You only have one temple. Yeah. You understand? And you are healthy today, and next thing you know, tomorrow, it's over. Or, you could have a heart attack, or, you are diagnosed with a chronic illness. And it's funny that you mentioned that too, that you actually reiterate some of those points, because actually, my upcoming guest that's on my show, speaking of that, her name is Dawn Fitch. Dawn Fitch. She actually created the product, Puka and Pure and Simple. If you go on Instagram, she does like these natural body products and things like that. And it's actually like now like spread across like more than 40 different boutiques and chains all over the United States. She was diagnosed a few years back, maybe like 15 years ago, with multiple sclerosis. She is a living example. She is a living example. And I think that she will be, if she was on this call, she can even tell you how she balanced her life with being an entrepreneur, with a multi-million-dollar business and being an entrepreneur and like learning to take care of herself in the midst of her own illness that she is dealing with to this day. When you see her, you would not be able to tell that this lady has multiple sclerosis, and like she takes it one day at a time. Her book, I was reading the passage in her book. I think, and she said every morning she gets up and pray. And again, everybody's different. We're not telling you to become Christians, Muslim, Buddhist, anything like that. Whatever you believe in your highest power to be, that's what you use. That was work for you. I don't care if you believe in Yoruba or or Rara or any other belief systems. What works for you works for you. And one of the things that she mentions in her book I think it was like the introduction, the first chapter, is that she gets up and pray. She has to pray because this is what keeps her mind settled and not get so stressed out throughout all the events throughout the day, and making sure that she's in tune with what's going on and not allow things to run her life. Because remember, she's dealing with a chronic illness. So I appreciate that from a person like her and several other people who, you just never know, they're battling cancer. They're battling, just chronic illnesses, but they're making it day by day. And that's important. You could be the best hustler, grinder out there, but if you're not taking care of yourself, when your health fails, what else do you have left? And that's true.
And I think you're the perfect person. I have to ask this. So I know you're, engaged, and also talking about, the friends or the people that you surround yourself with. How does that play into, mental health? But also, how do you determine, okay, is this person good for my health, or is this friendship, relationship, business partner, or whatever good for me.
So I wasn't always good at that initially, back in the day when I was a teenager, even in my young, but I learned from those experiences. But I think also too, because I do have a lot of brothers and sisters, and one of the things, even if you don't have a lot of brothers and sisters, if you have a lot of brothers and sisters, that doesn't mean that you're not going to feel alone. Because I also felt alone too, even in the midst of having being born into a huge family. But I will say this though. I remember my mother, even in the midst of her crisis, she used to always tell me, like, you don't need a whole bunch of friends, to lift you up. Even if you have that one good friend that has your back, that you could count on.
Right.
I do have several friends, and yes, I do. Dwayne he plays a major role in my life. I'm also flexible with my personality, which I'm gonna be very honest with you. I'm very transparent, but I wasn't many years ago because I carried a lot of pain, emotional pain,
Right.
and I was always guarded. And I had to literally kind of let that go. It's like, how can I expect people to help me if I don't let them in to help me? And I know that a number of us out there have been hurt and just been overall abused and abused. Again, I grew up in a domestic violence household, and I was a domestic violence victim myself even by my own son's father. And I was very, very guarded. And I realized that over the years that I had pushed people away to help me at that time when I was in those dark moments. It wasn't until after I got out of it and I started going for help that I realized that, you know what? I need to be just a little bit more open to allowing people to love me, allowing people to help me, allowing people to criticize me with good intentions, because you can't walk around with blinders on your eye and thinking that you're perfect. You never know that you offended someone. You never know that you may have said something, said something mean to a person and it hurt them. And, and if just as much as I want people to listen to me, I also have to be open and receptive to those who need to be heard as well, especially when it comes down to me making mistakes or doing, or offending people. And that helped me over the years. And of course, in addition to counseling. And so my good friends, they're very brutal and honest in terms of, they are very brutally honest. Don't get me wrong, it still pisses me off. Don't get me wrong. It still kind of make me mad, but I know where it come from. You understand? Because I'm brutally honest as well. So I have to check myself, like, you know what, I just, let me make sure, let me think about that. Let me sit back and let me think about that. And it helps. It definitely helps. At least I know I have that village and that support system, and it's okay. You understand? It's all right. It's okay. And also understanding that everybody makes mistakes. You and I are liable to make plenty of mistakes. But just to have that village that you allow to direct you and guide you, I think that's one of the greatest gifts that God could ever give me in my life. Just having that village. And also some folk, even my best friend a long time, she was like, man, me and you, we need to go to counseling. I said, counseling for what? She was like, really and truly, I just need you to come with me to counseling. I thought that was dope.
Wow.
You understand what I'm saying? I thought that was dope. I really do. I thought I'm old school, so I'm saying dope. But I'm just saying, I thought that was actually pretty cool for her to say that. Like, not to, make fun of her or anything like that. But she was like, no, I just need you to come to counseling with me. But she said, you and I need to go to counseling. That's the village. You understand? That's the village. That's the village. And I'm like, girl, I will go with you. Shoot, I may need to, chime in a couple of things about, whatever. But it was okay, though, because she understands that at the end of the day, we have her back. So, for those who have your villages, be grateful for them. You know what I'm saying? Don't try not to push them away. And for the villagers, try to understand where the person is coming from and give them that space to vent, give them that space to feel sad, give them that space to be able to recognize when they're wrong and when they're right as well. And it definitely takes a village to raise a child. And I truly, honestly believe in that.
Love it. And before we wrap up, I always want to ask, based on all you've done and, of course, the great things that are to come, what advice, looking back, would you give your 23-year-old self?
What advice that I would have given? If I was back in my 20s, Even though when I was in Philly, dropping it like it's hot, and the next day my whole entire body was on fire, and that's like, oh my God, was the ibuprofen? I was just looking crazy.
So don't drop it like it's hot.
What, girl? Oh my goodness! I was doing way too much, trying to do some dances I used to do back when I was 20, and I'm like, why my knee feel like this? Um, but what advice I would give? I think that the advice that I would have given myself, in my 20s, I was a hot mess too. So, I think if I was back in my 20s again, I would have, the one thing that I would definitely say if I could start all over back in those days is responding to negative situations differently. You know, in a different reaction, because I'm not gonna lie to you, I used to fight. Like, you know what I'm saying? My hands used to be like, what? You know what I'm saying? Like, I was just one of those people that, like, I'm gonna be honest with you, Dr. Mollette is not perfect. I did not come from a picket wife. I came from the projects, okay? I came from the streets. So I was always a fighter. And that was just that's how it was with me. I didn't have no problem of men, boys, girls, men or women, like what? Like, you know, that kind of thing. And just not having a problem. And I think, you know, to be honest, not saying that you should not defend yourself by any means necessary. But I think that those times that, because I was angry and, just over the years of what happened, you know, growing up in a very tragic and difficult childhood, to losing my son, to losing my sister, you know, things like that, like it affected me as, you know, as I had gotten older, and didn't realize that it was affecting me. And the thing was, when I think about all the situations or even just stupid, petty arguments, I could have responded to that a little differently. I could have actually walked away from it. I could have actually, instead of me raising my voice, I could have just spoke in a calm tone and settled the situation. But when you don't know better, you don't do better. But when you know better, you do better. Right. And so I think that was the thing that if I could start back over again in my 20s, I would have definitely responded to a number of situations very differently. And I mean, even though you can respond very calmly and it may not still work in your favor, but at least I know I tried to dealt with it more of in a positive light than just be on some street, you know, be hood and overreact, or, you know, got to act crazy, or, you know, have to fight. Like, it's not necessary. And that comes with a lot of anger. And I'll never forget, I know it's an old saying, but, you know, you catch more flies with honey than vinegar. Didn't understand that before, but I definitely understand it now. And I think that's really about it. Like, you know, just channeling that anger and learning to had learned to respond to situations very differently at that time. Now I use it. Now I do, you know, and it's definitely helped out a lot. And taking away that pride, like I'm from the hood. No, the hood cries too. The hood have pain also. Mm-hmm. The hood needs help. We don't have to prove that to each other anymore.
I love it. Growth. And honestly. And of course, I have enjoyed your honesty, and I've enjoyed like all of the things that you share with us today. And I'm pretty sure people are going to get so much from this interview and want to know more. So how can people find you? What's going on with you next, and support what you're doing?
So, I know I'm being silly. This is me even at work, to be honest with you. I keep telling people I'm not that professional. I'm really not. Like, I play Cardi B in the emergency room to calm my nerves down when people getting on my nerves in the emergency room, and have patients like dance to, you know, Cardi B while I'm doing a physical examination. So this is just me. Exactly. So they can definitely, you know, again, my name is Dr. Arabia Mollette, and Mollette is 2 L's with 2 L's, 2 E's, 2 T's. Don't get it twisted, because people think that it says Mollette, and I'm like, no, not the liquor. But they could definitely follow me on social media at Dr. Arabia Mollette, and Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I definitely have, you know, my podcast is called The Visit with Dr. Arabia Mollette, and you can definitely visit my website at what is it? Oops, sorry. Now my team is going to kill me. They're like, what? Really? www.drarabiamollette.com. next week, I know I'm getting honored. Thankfully, I'm actually getting honored next week, Saturday, by the National Action Network and by Al Sharpton. This weekend,
Congrats.
thank you. I was actually honored by the National Coalition of 100 Black Women this past January as well. So I was really
Wow.
honored for leadership in healthcare. And this Saturday, there is an event called Ladies in the Industry, hosted by Serene Management. If you go to the Instagram page and you look up Serene, that is SERENE Management, you'll definitely see there a post about the Ladies in the Industry conference that's going to be taking place this Saturday. I'm one of the people on the panel talk about the Me Too movement because I was a rape victim as well. And yeah, just living life and trying to give back.
Testimony.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, and let me tell you, New Yorkers, we do say ma'am sometimes because I learned that from my grandma. My nana was very country. She was from the South, so I still say yes, ma'am.
Yeah. He call you like, where are you from?
You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I always had to say that to her, but she bust my head open or something like that because I was being fresh. But yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Love it. Love it. So I'm excited. Congratulations on all you're doing. I think it's definitely inspiration to other women, to people that look like us. So thanks for all you're doing in the community.
Thank you. And I also have one more thing. I'm sorry, and I forgot to. April 22nd. And if you want to come, you definitely more than welcome to come. April 22nd, which is a Sunday from 12 to 4 p.m. I have the second podcast brunch. The first one we did was it's actually February 11th, surrounding the whole Valentine's Day, pre-Valentine's Day weekend, where we actually talked about trauma in our relationships and how do we move on from there. And so this one is coming up is April 22nd with Sukanya. If you remember Sukanya, she was one of the former news anchors for Channel 11, which is Pix 11. Now she's on Good Day New York, as well as Nicole Johnson, who's also one of the news reporters at Pix 11. And the topic is actually, the theme is based on women, negative images and stereotypes of women in media. And so definitely check that out. If you definitely visit my IG pages, believe me, you'll see it. It's definitely blasted, and it's going to be great. It's a podcast brunch, unlimited mimosas, and actually brunch, like literally like brunch style. And people can get their tickets if they visit the website or Eventbrite, and hopefully see you guys there.
Yes, love it. And important topic. So I'm excited to share, and I'll definitely share with the audience as well in the notes.
Thank you.
So,
thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you so much. I really appreciate you for coming, for sharing your story, and for sharing how people can continue to support you. And that is a wrap.
Thank you. Take care.